The galaxy was vast, but humanity had always been determined to explore every corner of it. By the year 2347, Earth's influence stretched across dozens of star systems. Colonies thrived on distant planets. Trade routes connected civilizations, and humanity stood as a rising power among the stars. But not everyone welcomed this expansion. On the edge of known space, aboard the gleaming golden spire of the Stellar Concord, a governing body overseeing interstellar peace, a council meeting was underway. Representatives from various alien species gathered around a massive circular table, their forms ranging from towering reptilian creatures to shimmering energy beings. At the center of attention stood Vorthak, an insectoid council member with 6 limbs, armored exoskeleton, and eyes that glowed like molten lava. His voice boomed through the chamber, sharp and commanding. "Enough," he barked, silencing murmurs among the delegates. "Humanity has overstepped its bounds. Their reckless expansion threatens the stability of our galaxy. They consume resources without restraint, destroy ecosystems, and bring chaos wherever they go." Vorthak's words hung heavy in the air. Some council members nodded in agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably. Humanity's rapid growth had indeed caused friction with neighboring species. But many also admired human ingenuity and adaptability. Still, no one dared challenge Vorthak directly. He was known for his fiery temper, and worse, his willingness to act on it. Turning to a holographic display, Vorthak projected images of Earth's colonies, sprawling cities carved into alien landscapes, mining operations stripping moons bare, and fleets of ships charting new territories. Each image fueled his argument. "Look at them," he spat. "They are like a plague, spreading uncontrollably. If we do not act now, they will consume everything." The room fell silent. Finally, a soft-spoken aquatic delegate named Lazira spoke up. "Councillor Vorthak, while your concerns are valid, escalation could lead to war. Have you considered diplomacy?" Vorthak sneered. "Diplomacy? With them, they only understand force." Without waiting for further discussion, he activated a communication link to Earth. Billions of humans watched live as his hulking figure filled screens worldwide. "Humans," he began, his tone dripping with disdain. "You have trespassed too far. Your greed knows no limits, and your presence disrupts the harmony of the galaxy. I give you 1 cycle of your planet's rotation to halt all expansion beyond your homeworld. Fail to comply, and my fleet will annihilate every colony you've built." Gasps rippled across Earth. News outlets erupted with panicked headlines. Families huddled around televisions, unsure if this was real or some twisted hoax. Governments scrambled to respond. United Nations Secretary-General Amara Patel addressed the world hours later, her calm demeanor masking the storm brewing behind closed doors. "We will not bow to threats," she declared firmly. "Earth stands united. We built these colonies with blood, sweat, and dreams. We will defend them." Vorthak's response came swiftly. Within minutes, footage of his massive war fleet appeared on every screen. Hundreds of sleek, jagged ships bristling with weaponry loomed against the void of space. The message was clear: defiance would come at a cost. As fear gripped humanity, something unexpected happened. Across social media platforms, forums, and chat rooms, ordinary people began organizing. Ideas flowed freely: how to repurpose old tech, how to fortify colonies, how to fight back. For the first time in years, humanity felt truly united. Vorthak thought he'd issued a death sentence. Instead, he'd ignited a firestorm. And soon, he would learn just how dangerous humanity could be when pushed to the brink. While Vorthak's ultimatum sent shockwaves across Earth, it also awakened something deep within humanity: a spark of defiance. People weren't ready to surrender their hard-won colonies without a fight. Amid the chaos, one woman emerged as an unlikely leader: Dr. Elena Vasquez. Elena was no soldier or politician. She was a scientist, known for her groundbreaking work in astrophysics and interstellar navigation. Her lab at the New York Institute of Space Research had been responsible for developing faster-than-light communication systems that connected Earth's far-flung colonies. But now, with war looming, Alina found herself thrust into a role she never imagined. The United Nations convened an emergency summit in Geneva, inviting top minds from around the world to strategize. Alina sat quietly at first, listening as military generals debated tactics and politicians argued over alliances. Then, unable to stay silent any longer, she raised her hand. "There's one thing we're forgetting," she said, her voice steady but firm. "We're not fighting just to survive. We're fighting to prove we belong out here. Humans are resourceful. We adapt. That's our greatest strength." She walked to the front of the room and activated a holographic display. It showed maps of Earth's colonies, supply routes, and even abandoned outposts. "Vorthek thinks he can intimidate us because we're smaller than his fleet. But size doesn't matter if you don't know where to strike." Her plan was bold. Instead of meeting Vorthek head-on with brute force, humanity would use its ingenuity to outwit him. Guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and psychological tactics would level the playing field. Every colony would become a fortress, every citizen a defender. Even retired spacecraft could be repurposed as decoys or traps. At first, some leaders hesitated. Could such unconventional methods really stand up against a technologically advanced alien fleet? But Alina's confidence was infectious. Slowly, they began to see her vision, not just as a strategy, but as a symbol of hope. To coordinate this massive effort, the United Earth Defense Initiative, UEDI, was formed. Under Alina's guidance, UEDI brought together scientists, engineers, soldiers, and civilians under one banner. Factories once used to produce consumer goods were converted to build weapons and shields. Schools taught basic self-defense techniques alongside traditional lessons. Social media campaigns encouraged people to share ideas and solutions, creating a global network of innovation. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens took matters into their own hands. In the Martian colony of Olympus Base, miners welded scrap metal into makeshift barricades. On Titan Station, teenagers hacked old drones to serve as surveillance units. Back on Earth, families gathered in community centers to assemble rudimentary explosives using household chemicals. One particularly inspiring story came from Luna City, Earth's moon colony. A group of retired astronauts modified decommissioned shuttles into armed vessels, dubbing them the Silver Squadron. Their motto: "If they want to fight, we'll give them fireworks." As these grassroots movements gained momentum, so did Alina's influence. She became a household name, appearing on broadcasts to rally support and explain the importance of unity. "This isn't about revenge," she often reminded viewers. "It's about proving that humanity is more than Vorthek believes. We're resilient, we're creative, and we don't back down." Even skeptics couldn't deny the results. Within weeks, Earth's colonies transformed from vulnerable outposts into fortified strongholds. Morale soared as people realized they weren't helpless victims. They were fighters. Vorthek underestimated humanity's spirit. He thought fear would paralyze them. Instead, it ignited a fire that burned brighter with each passing day. Unbeknownst to him, his threat had done something extraordinary. It had united humanity like never before. And soon, he would learn just how dangerous a united humanity could be. Vorthek's fleet arrived at Proxima Centauri, humanity's closest colony, with terrifying precision. The alien ships loomed in the sky like jagged blades, their metallic surfaces glinting ominously under the dim red light of the star. For the colonists below, there was no time to prepare, only moments to brace themselves. The attack began without warning. Energy beams sliced through the atmosphere, obliterating communication towers and power grids. Buildings crumbled, sending plumes of smoke spiraling into the air. Panic spread as civilians scrambled for shelter, but not everyone ran. In the chaos, a surprising resistance emerged. On the outskirts of New Haven, one of the largest settlements on Proxima Centauri B, a group of miners took action. Armed with mining lasers retrofitted into makeshift weapons, they set up ambush points along the colony's perimeter. When an alien patrol descended to scout the area, the miners struck first, disabling 2 scout ships before retreating into underground tunnels. News of their success spread quickly among the colonists. Inspired by the miners' bravery, other groups began organizing counterattacks. Engineers repurposed old drones to serve as decoys, drawing enemy fire away from populated areas. Farmers used agricultural equipment to create barricades, while hackers infiltrated the aliens' communication systems, causing confusion among Vorthak's forces. Back on Earth, these acts of defiance were broadcast live across global networks. Footage showed ordinary people fighting back against overwhelming odds. A video of a teenage girl using a homemade EMP device to disable an alien drone went viral, earning her the nickname Spark. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. But Vorthak wasn't impressed. From his command ship, he watched the skirmishes unfold with growing frustration. Primitive tactics, he muttered, pacing the bridge. They're delaying the inevitable. His second-in-command, Commander Zenara, a sleek, 4-armed amphibious alien, spoke cautiously. Counselor, perhaps we underestimated them. Their adaptability is remarkable. Silence. Vorthak snapped. Adaptability means nothing against superior firepower. Increase bombardments. Flatten every structure until they surrender. As the attacks intensified, so did humanity's resolve. In another corner of the colony, a retired pilot named Captain Marcus Kane led a daring raid on an alien supply depot. Using salvaged parts, his team had cobbled together a single functional fighter craft. Against all odds, they managed to destroy several cargo ships carrying vital resources for Vorthak's fleet. The victory was small but significant. It proved that even outdated human technology could pose a threat when wielded creatively. More importantly, it boosted morale across the galaxy. Colonists who had initially felt powerless now saw hope in the possibility of resistance. Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Vasquez monitored events from Earth, analyzing data sent by survivors. She noticed patterns in the aliens' behavior, how they prioritized certain targets, how their formations shifted during combat. They're predictable, she told Secretary General Amara Puddle during a late-night briefing. If we exploit their weaknesses, we can turn this tide. Amara nodded grimly. Then do it. Give our people the tools they need to fight smarter. Elena worked tirelessly, sharing strategies and blueprints with colonies via encrypted channels. Her instructions reached Proxima Centauri just in time. When Vorthak launched a final assault on New Haven, the colonists were ready. They lured his forces into narrow corridors, where the aliens' larger ships struggled to maneuver, then unleashed everything they had: improvised explosives, hack drones, and sheer determination. By the time the dust settled, Vorthak's fleet had suffered heavy losses. Though New Haven lay in ruins, its defenders stood tall amidst the wreckage. Across the galaxy, humanity celebrated the improbable victory. But Vorthak wasn't done yet. As he retreated to regroup, his anger burned hotter than ever. Little did he know, his arrogance had sealed his fate. Humanity wasn't afraid anymore. And they were just getting started. As humanity celebrated their unexpected victories at Proxima Centauri, Dr. Elena Vasquez knew they were far from safe. Vorthak's fleet was still out there, regrouping and licking its wounds, but it wouldn't stay that way for long. Humanity needed more than scattered acts of resistance. They needed a decisive blow to cripple the alien war machine once and for all. Elena gathered her team in a secure underground facility beneath Geneva. Maps of Vorthak's fleet filled the walls, alongside schematics of his ship's design. Among those present was Captain Marcus Kane, the retired pilot who had led the daring raid on the supply depot. His grizzled face bore the scars of battle, but his eyes gleamed with determination. "We've hit them hard," Elena began, pacing the room. "But we're playing defense. If we want to win this war, we need to strike where it hurts most: their command ship." The room fell silent. Attacking Vorthak's flagship directly seemed suicidal. It was heavily guarded, bristling with weapons, and shielded by layers of advanced technology. But Alina wasn't proposing a frontal assault. What if we didn't attack? She continued, turning to face her team. What if we walked right onto his ship and took it apart from the inside? Her plan was audacious. Infiltrate Vorthak's flagship disguised as a diplomatic envoy offering advanced human technology. The bait would be irresistible to Vorthak, whose arrogance blinded him to subtlety. Once aboard, the team could plant hidden transmitters and sabotage key systems, giving UEDI forces critical intel and vulnerabilities to exploit. Captain Kane raised an eyebrow. You're talking about walking into the lion's den. Who's crazy enough to volunteer for that? I am, Alina replied without hesitation, and I'll need volunteers willing to follow me. To everyone's surprise, Kane stepped forward first. If you think this harebrained scheme has a shot, count me in. Others soon joined. Engineers, hackers, medics, and even a linguist fluent in multiple alien languages. Together, they formed a small but highly skilled team. Preparations moved quickly. Using salvaged materials, the team constructed a decoy shuttle resembling one of Earth's older diplomatic vessels. They loaded it with fake tech blueprints designed to look groundbreaking yet plausible, a fusion reactor prototype powered by quantum energy. To sell the deception, Alina recorded a holographic message explaining humanity's willingness to negotiate peace in exchange for sharing this technology. When the shuttle approached Vorthak's flagship days later, tension crackled among the crew. Through the viewport, the massive alien vessel loomed like a mountain of steel and glass. Its surface shimmered with energy shields, and cannons tracked their every move. "This is insane," muttered one engineer nervously. "If they figure us out." "They won't," Alina interrupted firmly. "Remember your training. Stay calm." The shuttle docked smoothly, and the team disembarked, hands raised in a gesture of surrender. Alien guards escorted them to a grand chamber where Vorthak awaited, his towering form exuding menace. Behind him stood Commander Zanera, her expression unreadable. "Humans," Vorthak sneered, his glowing eyes narrowing. "You dare come here after resisting my ultimatum?" Alina stepped forward, feigning humility. "Counselor Vorthak, we bring an olive branch. This technology could benefit both our peoples. Let us prove our worth." Vorthak hesitated, intrigued despite himself. After a tense moment, he gestured for his technicians to examine the blueprints. As the aliens pored over the fake designs, the human team discreetly planted transmitters throughout the ship. Their devices blended seamlessly with the alien tech, undetectable even to sophisticated scans. By the time the mission ended, the team slipped away unnoticed. Back aboard their shuttle, they transmitted the data to Earth. For the first time, humanity had eyes inside Vorthak's fleet. As they fled into the void, Alina allowed herself a small smile. Vorthak thought he'd won by letting them board. Instead, he'd handed them the keys to his downfall. And he had no idea. Back aboard Vorthak's flagship, tensions simmered beneath the surface. The council members' arrogance had always been a defining trait, but now it was beginning to fracture the unity of his own crew. While Vorthak celebrated what he believed was a diplomatic victory, acquiring advanced human technology, Commander Zanera harbored growing doubts about her leader's decisions. Zanera paced the dimly lit corridors of the ship, her forearms crossed tightly over her chest. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the humans' sudden willingness to cooperate. Their demeanor during negotiations had been too calm, their gestures too rehearsed. And then there was the matter of the technology they'd handed over. Despite its apparent sophistication, something about it felt hollow. Her suspicions deepened when she reviewed surveillance footage of the human team moving through the ship. They seemed overly interested in areas unrelated to the supposed purpose of their visit: control rooms, engineering hubs, and communication arrays. Each step they took appeared calculated, almost as if they were mapping the vessel. Zanera decided to act. Late one night, She accessed restricted files detailing recent battles against humanity. What she found shocked her. Reports from Proxima Centauri painted a picture of resilience and ingenuity far beyond anything Vorthak had acknowledged. Humans weren't just fighting back. They were adapting, learning, and exploiting weaknesses in ways no other species ever had. Convinced that Vorthak's warmongering was leading them toward disaster, Zenera reached out to a trusted subordinate, Lieutenant Kale, a quiet but fiercely intelligent amphibian officer. Together, they began gathering allies among the crew. Those who shared their concerns about Vorthak's leadership and feared the escalating conflict with humanity. "We can't keep following him blindly," Zenera whispered during a clandestine meeting in the ship's maintenance bay. "Every battle we lose emboldens the humans further. If this continues, our people will suffer." Kale nodded grimly. "But how do we stop him? He controls the fleet and the council." "We leak information," Zenera replied, her voice firm. "Let Earth know where we're vulnerable. Maybe then they'll see not all of us agree with Vorthak's madness." Meanwhile, Vorthak remained oblivious to the brewing rebellion. Consumed by his obsession with crushing humanity, he doubled down on aggressive tactics. When reports came in of another human colony successfully repelling an attack, he lashed out at his advisors, accusing them of incompetence. His paranoia grew, and he started issuing harsh punishments for even minor infractions, alienating more of his crew. Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Vasquez received encrypted transmissions containing classified data from Zenera. At first, she was skeptical. It could easily be a trap. But after analyzing the intel, she realized it was genuine. The information revealed critical weak points in the alien fleet's defenses, including shield frequencies and supply routes. "This changes everything," Elena told Secretary General Ameripatl during a late-night strategy session. "If we strike these targets simultaneously, we can cripple their operations." Amara hesitated. "And the source, can we trust them?" "I think so," Elena said. "Whoever sent this hates Vorthak as much as we do. For now, that makes them an ally." Using the leaked intel, UEDI forces launched a series of precision strikes across multiple fronts. Supply lines were disrupted, key ships disabled, and morale among Vorthak's fleet plummeted. Each success bolstered humanity's confidence while sowing discord among the aliens. As chaos spread, Vorthak's grip on power weakened. Accusations of betrayal flew between officers, and his once unified fleet fractured into factions. Even Commander Zenera found herself questioning whether she had done enough, or too much. For the first time, Vorthak faced the possibility that his war might fail, not because of humanity's strength, but because of divisions within his own ranks. And as whispers of mutiny echoed through the halls of his flagship, he realized the true cost of underestimating both his enemies and his allies. The tide was turning, and Vorthak's reign was teetering on the edge of collapse. As humanity continued its fight against Vorthak's fleet, Dr. Elena Vasquez realized that battles weren't won solely through weapons and shields. They were also fought in the hearts and minds of people. She proposed an unconventional strategy, a propaganda campaign aimed directly at Vorthak's homeworld and the rest of the galaxy. If they could expose his failures and turn public opinion against him, they might weaken his grip on power without firing a single shot. The plan was simple yet bold. Using intercepted transmissions and footage from previous battles, UEDI teams created a series of broadcasts showcasing humanity's resilience and ingenuity. These videos highlighted moments of human bravery, miners turning their tools into weapons, teenagers hacking alien drones, colonies standing united despite overwhelming odds. They juxtaposed these images with evidence of Vorthak's arrogance and incompetence. Destroyed ships, fractured alliances, and growing dissent within his own ranks. But the centerpiece of the campaign came from an unexpected source: Commander Zenera. After leaking classified data to Earth, she secretly recorded a message denouncing Vorthak's leadership. In the recording, her voice trembled with emotion as she spoke directly to her people. Counselor Vorthek promised victory, Zenara declared, her face appearing on screens across the galaxy. Instead, he has brought shame and division to our species. His reckless warmongering endangers not only humanity but our own future. We must stand together, not for conquest, but for peace. The videos spread like wildfire. On Vorthek's homeworld, citizens gathered around public monitors, stunned by the revelations. Protests erupted in major cities as outrage over Vorthek's failures boiled over. Citizens demanded answers, accusing him of squandering resources and risking interstellar stability for personal glory. Even members of the Stellar Concord began questioning whether Vorthek should remain in power. Back aboard his flagship, Vorthek watched the chaos unfold with mounting fury. Reports poured in of riots breaking out near his capital city and petitions circulating for his removal. For the first time, cracks appeared in his otherwise unshakable confidence. "This is treason," he roared at Commander Zenara during a heated confrontation on the bridge. "You dare side with them? With humans?" Zenara stood firm, meeting his glare with unwavering resolve. "I side with what's best for our people. Your war has cost us too much already." Vorthek's response was swift and brutal. He ordered crackdowns on dissent back home, deploying security forces to suppress protests and silence critics. But the harder he pushed, the more resistance grew. Images of peaceful demonstrators being arrested or injured fueled further anger, both among his own people and across the galaxy. On Earth, Elena monitored the situation closely. The propaganda campaign had exceeded her expectations, but she knew it wasn't enough to rely solely on words. Humanity needed tangible victories to solidify their position. Using Zenara's intel, UEDI forces launched targeted strikes against key installations on Vorthek's homeworld, disabling supply depots and communication hubs while minimizing civilian casualties. These coordinated efforts sent shockwaves through Vorthek's regime. Allies who once supported him began distancing themselves publicly, fearing association with his failing cause. Even loyal officers aboard his flagship started questioning orders, unsure if following Vorthek would lead to ruin. As tensions reached a boiling point, Vorthek made a desperate decision. Ignoring advice from his advisors, he redirected his remaining fleet toward Earth itself, vowing to crush humanity's spirit once and for all. But his move only deepened divisions within his ranks. Many crew members openly opposed the attack, arguing it was reckless and unnecessary. For the first time, Vorthek found himself truly isolated, not just from humanity, but from those he sought to rule. His empire was crumbling, and there was no one left to blame but himself. Humanity, meanwhile, prepared for the final showdown. United by shared purpose and bolstered by galactic support, they stood ready to defend their home and prove that resilience could overcome even the fiercest tyranny. Vorthek's fleet descended upon Earth with a ferocity that shook the planet to its core. The skies darkened as hundreds of alien ships filled the atmosphere, their jagged forms blotting out the sun. Energy beams rained down on cities, military bases, and communication hubs, reducing them to rubble in seconds. For humanity, it was a nightmare come true, their homeworld under siege by an enemy who refused to back down. But Earth wasn't defenseless. Thanks to Dr. Elena Vasquez's meticulous planning and Zenara's leaked intel, UEDI forces had prepared for this moment. Hidden beneath sprawling deserts, dense forests, and deep oceans were experimental weapons powered by quantum energy, technology so advanced it bordered on science fiction. These weapons were humanity's last hope, designed specifically to counteract the aliens' superior shields and firepower. The first wave of attacks came at dawn. Alien fighters swarmed overhead, targeting major metropolitan areas like New York, Tokyo, and London. Civilians fled underground bunkers while UEDI pilots scrambled to intercept the invaders. In orbit, Earth's outdated but heavily modified fleet engaged Vorthek's warships in a desperate bid to buy time for the ground defenses to activate. As the battle raged above and below, Alina stood inside a secure command center located miles beneath the Arctic ice. Her hands hovered over holographic controls, monitoring real-time data from every front. "Activate the Q-pulse cannons," she ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Seconds later, massive turrets emerged from hidden installations across the globe, glowing faintly as they charged up. When the cannons fired, the effect was devastating. Pulses of quantum energy surged through the air, bypassing the alien shields and tearing through their hulls. Dozens of ships exploded in fiery bursts, sending debris raining down into the atmosphere. Cheers erupted among UEDI forces as they realized the weapons worked. But the fight was far from over. On board Vorthak's flagship, panic spread among the crew. Never before had they faced such a threat. Even Vorthak himself seemed shaken, though he refused to show it. "Retreat," he barked, his voice trembling with rage. "Regroup and prepare another assault." But retreat wasn't easy. Humanity's resistance had grown stronger than ever. Guerrilla tactics disrupted supply lines, while hacked drones infiltrated alien formations, causing confusion and chaos. Captain Marcus Kane led a daring strike team aboard a stolen alien shuttle, using its cloaking device to infiltrate one of Vorthak's damaged cruisers. Once inside, they planted explosives in critical systems, crippling the vessel before escaping undetected. Meanwhile, protests on Vorthak's homeworld intensified. Citizens watched live broadcasts of the battle above Earth, horrified by the destruction caused by their own species. Many questioned whether Vorthak's war was worth the cost, not just in lives lost, but in the erosion of trust between species. Some even began calling for peace talks, urging the Stellar Concord to intervene before the conflict spiraled further out of control. Despite the mounting pressure, Vorthak remained defiant. He couldn't accept defeat, not after everything he'd sacrificed. Gathering what remained of his fleet, he plotted a final gambit. A direct assault on Earth's moon colony, Luna Base. If he could take control of the colony's orbital defense network, he might still turn the tide in his favor. However, humanity was ready. As Vorthak's battered forces approached Luna Base, they found themselves walking into a trap. The colony's defenders had rigged the entire facility with explosives, turning it into a massive bomb. When the aliens breached the surface, the detonation obliterated dozens of ships, leaving Vorthak's fleet in shambles. Forced to abandon his attack, Vorthak retreated once more, this time not just from Earth, but from the entire solar system. His pride shattered, his resources depleted, and his support crumbling, he slunk back to his homeworld with only a fraction of his original fleet intact. Humanity had won, for now. But as Alina looked at the smoldering ruins of Earth's cities, she knew the scars of this war would linger for generations. Still, there was hope. Against all odds, humanity had proven that resilience and unity could overcome even the fiercest adversary. And somewhere in the galaxy, others were watching, ready to stand beside Earth when the next challenge arose. Vorthak's return to his homeworld was anything but triumphant. His once mighty fleet limped through the atmosphere, reduced to a fraction of its former strength. The towering spires of his capital city loomed ahead, but instead of cheers and banners, he was met with silence and hostility. Protesters lined the streets, their voices echoing across the city as they chanted slogans demanding justice and peace. "Enough bloodshed," one banner read. "Step down, Vorthak," screamed another. The council member's arrival only fueled the unrest. News of his catastrophic defeat at Earth spread quickly, further eroding what little support he had left. Even members of the Stellar Concord who had previously backed him now distanced themselves publicly, fearful of being associated with his failures. For the first time in decades, Vorthak felt truly vulnerable. Inside the Grand Hall of the Stellar Concord, an emergency session convened to address the crisis. Delegates from across the galaxy gathered, their expressions ranging from anger to pity. Commander Zanera stood among them, her presence a stark reminder of Vorthak's crumbling empire. When called upon to speak, she delivered a scathing indictment of her former leader. Counselor Vorthak has brought shame not only to our people but to the entire galaxy, Zenera declared, her voice resonating through the chamber. His obsession with conquest has cost countless lives and destabilized interstellar relations. It is time for accountability. Her words struck a nerve. Other delegates joined the chorus, calling for Vorthak's removal from power. One by one, they condemned his actions, painting him as a reckless tyrant unfit to lead. The vote was swift and unanimous. Vorthak would be stripped of his title, his assets frozen, and his movements restricted under house arrest. For Vorthak, the verdict was unbearable. Stripped of his armor and insignia, he retreated to a remote estate on the outskirts of the city, consumed by bitterness and regret. He spent hours staring out at the horizon, replaying every decision that had led to this moment. Had he underestimated humanity? Overestimated himself? The questions haunted him, but there were no answers, only the cold reality of failure. While Vorthak faded into obscurity, a new government emerged on his homeworld. Led by reformist factions, including many who had opposed Vorthak's warmongering, they sought to rebuild trust both within their species and with the rest of the galaxy. Their first act was to send envoys to Earth, offering an olive branch and proposing peace talks. On Earth, the offer sparked heated debate. Some saw it as a chance to secure lasting peace. Others viewed it as a trap. Dr. Elena Vasquez urged caution, reminding leaders that not everyone shared the reformists' ideals. Not all of them want peace, she warned during a closed-door meeting. Radical factions loyal to Vorthak still exist, and they'll stop at nothing to continue the war. Her concerns proved prescient. Intelligence reports soon revealed that rogue elements within Vorthak's former regime had stolen a prototype weapon, a devastating device capable of destabilizing planetary cores. Dubbed the Core Disruptor, it posed a catastrophic threat if used against Earth or any other populated world. Realizing the danger, Elena convinced Secretary General Amarapatal to authorize a covert operation. A small strike team, led by Captain Marcus Kane, would infiltrate the Radicals' stronghold, an asteroid base hidden deep within a dense debris field, and neutralize the weapon before it could be deployed. As preparations began, tensions ran high. Humanity had endured so much already. Could they face yet another battle? But as Elena addressed the team before their departure, her words carried a quiet resolve. "This isn't just about stopping a weapon," she said. "It's about proving that we're stronger than fear, stronger than hatred. We've come too far to let anyone drag us back into darkness." With those words ringing in their ears, the strike team launched into the void, ready to confront whatever dangers awaited them. Behind them, Earth stood united, not just as survivors, but as defenders of hope itself. And somewhere in the shadows, Vorthak watched silently, his pride shattered, but his resentment burning brighter than ever. The peace talks between Earth and Vorthak's homeworld began with cautious optimism. Representatives from both sides gathered aboard a neutral space station orbiting a distant star, its gleaming corridors filled with the hum of translators and the quiet tension of mistrust. For humanity, this was an opportunity to secure lasting stability in the galaxy. But Dr. Elena Vasquez couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Elena sat at the negotiation table alongside Secretary General Amara Patel, her sharp eyes scanning every move made by the alien envoys. The new government of Vorthak's species, now calling themselves the Concord Reformists, seemed sincere in their desire for peace. Their leader, Ambassador Rennex, spoke eloquently about unity, cooperation, and moving past old grievances. Yet Elena noticed subtle signs of unease among the delegation. Some avoided eye contact. Others exchanged nervous glances when certain topics arose. It wasn't until the third day of talks that Elena uncovered the truth. Late one night, while reviewing encrypted communications intercepted by UEDI intelligence, she stumbled upon alarming evidence. A radical faction loyal to Vorthak had infiltrated the peace process, using it as cover to smuggle components of the stolen core disruptor onto the station. Their plan was chillingly clear: sabotage the negotiations and frame humanity for the attack, reigniting hostilities across the galaxy. Elena immediately alerted Amara, who convened an emergency meeting with Captain Marcus Kane and his covert strike team. "We have hours, maybe less," Elena explained, pacing the room. "If they activate that weapon here, it'll destroy the station and everyone on it." Kane nodded grimly. "Then we find it before they do." The team sprang into action, splitting up to search key areas of the station. Armed with portable scanners designed to detect quantum anomalies, they moved swiftly but discreetly, avoiding detection by the alien delegates. Tension mounted as false alarms triggered alerts in empty corridors, forcing them to adapt quickly. Meanwhile, Elena worked tirelessly to decode more intercepted messages, piecing together clues about the weapon's location. Her breakthrough came just as panic erupted elsewhere on the station. One of Kane's operatives radioed in, breathless. "We found part of it, in the reactor core chamber." Elena's heart sank. If the radicals activated even a fragment of the core disruptor near the station's power source, the resulting explosion would be catastrophic. She relayed the information to Kane, who led his team to the chamber in a race against time. What they found there chilled them to the bone. 2 rogue agents, clad in sleek black exosuits, were already assembling the device. Energy crackled around its central core, pulsing ominously as it powered up. Without hesitation, Kane and his team engaged the agents in a fierce firefight. Sparks flew as energy blasts ricocheted off walls, and alarms blared throughout the station. In the chaos, Kane managed to disable one agent, but the second fought back with brutal efficiency. Just as the core disruptor reached critical mass, Elena's voice crackled over the comms. "Cut the containment field. It'll destabilize the weapon." Kane didn't hesitate. Dodging enemy fire, he hacked into the chamber's control panel and severed the containment protocols. The core disruptor shuddered violently, then imploded in a burst of light, leaving only scorched metal behind. Back in the negotiation room, the explosion caused minimal damage. A contained incident easily dismissed as a technical malfunction. But Elena knew better. Humanity had narrowly avoided disaster once again. As the talks resumed, Elena exchanged a glance with Kane. Both understood the unspoken truth. Peace was fragile, and enemies still lurked in the shadows. For now, though, humanity had won another battle, not with weapons, but with vigilance and courage. And somewhere far away, Vorthek watched the news of the failed sabotage, his lips curling into a bitter smile. The war might be over, but his hatred burned brighter than ever. The final chapter of humanity's conflict with Vorthek's species unfolded not in the heat of battle, but in quiet moments of reflection and resolve. On Earth, cities once scared by alien attacks were slowly rebuilding. Towering cranes stretched toward the sky as survivors worked side by side to restore what had been lost. The scars of war remained, both on the planet and in the hearts of its people, but so did a newfound sense of unity and purpose. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood on a hill overlooking New York City, now dotted with construction sites and makeshift memorials for those who had fallen. She clutched a tablet displaying updates from across the galaxy. The peace talks had concluded successfully, with agreements signed to establish trade routes, share technology, and form alliances against future threats. Yet Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was fragile, a delicate balance held together by hope rather than certainty. Her thoughts turned to Vorthek. Reports indicated he remained under house arrest, his days spent brooding in isolation. Some called for his trial before an interstellar tribunal. Others argued that punishing him publicly would only reignite old hostilities. Elena believed neither revenge nor leniency was the answer. Instead, she proposed something unexpected: rehabilitation. "We've seen how fear and arrogance can twist someone like Vorthek," she told Secretary General Amarapatl during a private meeting. "What if we gave him a chance to understand what he fought against? To see humanity not as an enemy, but as a partner?" Amara hesitated. Do you really think it's possible? After everything he's done? It's worth trying, Elena replied firmly. If we don't extend a hand, even to someone like him, we risk becoming exactly what he accused us of being. With cautious approval, Elena arranged for Vorthak to be brought to Earth, not as a prisoner, but as a guest. When he arrived, escorted by armed guards, his demeanor was defiant yet weary. His once imposing figure seemed smaller now, burdened by shame and regret. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to look around, to see the resilience of the humans he had sought to destroy. Elena guided him through bustling streets, rebuilt neighborhoods, and schools where children learned about diplomacy alongside science. At one point, they visited a museum dedicated to the war, featuring exhibits created not just by humans, but also by alien defectors like Sinara. As Vorthak walked among displays showcasing both the horrors of conflict and the triumphs of cooperation, something shifted within him. I underestimated you, he admitted finally, his voice low and gravelly. I saw only chaos where there was order, weakness where there was strength. I was wrong. His words surprised even himself. Elena nodded, her expression softening. It's never too late to change, she said, not for anyone. Back on Vorthak's homeworld, the reformist government worked tirelessly to heal divisions within their society. Commander Zenera emerged as a symbol of progress, advocating for policies that prioritized peace and collaboration over conquest. Under her leadership, their species began forging new alliances, not just with humanity, but with other civilizations across the galaxy. As ships carrying diplomats and traders departed Earth, bound for distant stars, humanity looked to the future with cautious optimism. They had proven their worth, not through brute force, but through ingenuity, adaptability, and compassion. And though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, they faced them united, not just as individuals, but as part of a greater galactic community. In the end, Vorthak's greatest failure became humanity's greatest victory, a reminder that even in the face of hatred and destruction, hope could prevail. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers and untold wonders, but for the first time, humanity knew they weren't alone, and they were ready to face whatever came next, together.